right, welcome to another episode of the Influential Nonprofit. I have my new best friend here with me today, Kirsten Stevens, and we're going to talk about getting your board ready to serve and to serve at a high level. And I am so excited because we have a lot of boards. I think there are a lot of very kind, well-intentioned people who just don't know what to do. And we sometimes don't always know how to get the best out of them. That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, Kristen. How are you?
Great. Great and happy to be here. Am I allowed to correct you? It's Kirsten.
Kirsten. Oh my God. Yes, you have to correct me. Oh, thank you, Kirsten. Okay, because it's K-I-R. And
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Because I have a friend who's Kirsten, and I'm always like Kirsten. So you're Kier, so I have to put that in my head, like Kier, right?
And I know so many Kristens too. So
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
I pretty much answer to anything, but for
But
the sake of today,
no. And it's
we'll do
okay.
Kirsten.
It's okay to want it right. Like people constantly misspell my name and it drives me crazy. And I will correct them and I'll say, hey, little thing to you, but it's a big thing to me. It's one word, no capital A. I was part of this program for 5 years, and Leanne and she was L-E capital A-N-N. And everyone spelled my name, Mary capital A-N-N. And I was like, oh, you've polluted my name. So Kirsten, now, I'm going to give you a quick,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a quick intro. You are an accomplished philanthropy advisor and nonprofit consultant, and you are focused on bridging the gap between philanthropic support and transformational impact in the social sector. And you were born in Panama, raised in Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Mexico. Wow, what a life. And your diverse background has shaped your global perspective on philanthropy and nonprofit excellence, which I love. What a cool perspective you're coming from. Now, if you listen to my podcast, you know I always answer one question to start. So you may or may not be ready for this, but tell me something you're really proud of that you don't get to brag about a lot.
I'm really, really proud of my passion for dancing. And it just isn't something that I get to do much anymore. I don't get to share it. I don't get to talk about it. It's, when you're busy with work and you're being an adult, you don't get to be a kid so much anymore. But man, I love to dance. And on my bucket list is to become a professional dancer, believe it or not.
I love it. Okay, what kind of dancing?
Well, my favorite, because I grew up in Latin America, is any kind of Latino dancing. So
Mm-hmm.
merengue, salsa, you name it, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, probably in that direction. I would say salsa is probably that's the hook for me.
So I saw this woman on TikTok, and she became a Broadway dancer in her 50s.
You see? There you go. It's
all there.
It's all there for us.
Right. I'm a lady of a certain age, right? I'm 58. And all right. And so, but I have a theory, it's called, and I won't swear on this because I'm going to be polite, but you can feel Nord. It's called F it, I'm 50. And women turn 50 and they're like, F it, I'm just gonna. So my best friend, she started this little rock band, and they do covers, and she's busy as crap. She's got gigs every weekend, and she just sings, in a band on the weekends. And my other friend joined roller derby and so whatever. But I would encourage you, because I really believe, because I love karaoke, but I would like to encourage you. I'm going to give you a little bit of coaching, if that's okay, before we get into the topic. Okay,
bring it on. Yes.
Because if you look at your body, right, as adults, we tend to live in the top half of our body and forget the bottom half. But the dancing is your spark to that bottom half, right? That root chakra, that creative expression. And so by not prioritizing dance, it's like, oh, I have to be an adult, I can't do that. It's actually the opposite. When you step into that creative expression, it actually fuels, right? And so when we disassociate ourselves from those pleasures, from those creative forces, it actually does the adult part of us a disservice instead of the service we think we're doing. Right.
Love that.
But thinking about that flow, because I had a coach, one of my coaches, Dr. Aaron, he's like, Marion, you're living in two halves of your body. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I was like, I'm like this rebel and this wild girl, but people don't want that. They want the strategist. And they're like, no, they want all of it.
That's
right?
right.
Because
That's right.
and it fuels all of it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Mhm.
100%. Yep. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
So if I needed the push, I've got it
I know.
now.
And you're, I'm in St. Louis, you're in part of the year in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll have to
Get
go
back there tomorrow.
dancing. I'm in Chicago quite a bit. You're come to St. Louis. We're going out. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
Let's
Done.
let's talk about boards, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, and for anyone listening, I would just encourage you if to do not dismiss the things that bring you joy,
Mm.
because they're there to fuel everything else. All right, so let's talk about boards now. We're trying to talk about board readiness. I don't think people really think about that. I think they recruit people onto the board and they're like, "Here's the binder, have fun," and you're like, "Oh, okay," but people peak engagement is when you first start, right? No one is going to be more invested than at the beginning. So how do you get them ready to jump into service?
And the thing is, Marianne, if you miss that window, you will sometimes never catch up, right? You'll never get that board member back in that place where they were so excited initially. So, a couple of things that I love. First of all, before we even have the first board meeting that this person is going to attend, I love to have a one-on-one with them. And it could be me as a consultant facilitating with the CEO or the chairman of the board, but we have a real conversation. We have a person-to-person conversation about, well, these are the things we're focused on. These are the things we're going to do this year. These are the big goals. And the everyday life, maybe, of the CEO, these are the kinds of things they're handling. From a board perspective, these are the things we're working on. Is there anything that we've talked about that might be of special interest to you? Is there anything that caught your attention? When we think about you serving on this board, Jane, um, what comes to mind in terms of what you feel, what value you feel you can bring? And if they say, "Oh, I really don't know," it's kind of okay, no problem. It'll crystallize over time. But the reason I bring this up is because some people say, "Well, I'm really good at writing thank you notes and I'm kind of old school and I like to handwrite them." Awesome. We need someone to do that. Or, "I love having conversations with people. I like inviting people to my home." Great. Would you be willing to have 3 or 4 couples over to your home for cocktails and appetizers to tell them a little bit about the organization? And if you start to give examples, they will start to latch on and say, "Oh, wait a minute. I have a women's tennis group. Maybe I could bring them in one day, or maybe I could talk to them one day about what we're doing and get them excited about this organization." So giving them ideas, but it's the one-on-one where those things come out, because we throw them right in and they go straight into a board meeting. They're not going to say anything. Do you
Nope.
say anything in your
Nope.
first scenario? Well,
Nope.
you and I are a little different. We're a little
But
outspoken, but they're not going to say anything.
but even in those situations, I am very cautious. So if I'm cautious, me, right? Imagine
Imagine.
what other people are like who may have not. When I get overwhelmed, like that's very rare. But and when I served on a board, this was years ago, and they're all white guys with ties. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're lawyers and accountants and all these people, and I got intimidated. Like, I can't read a financial statement. What am I doing here? You
Precisely.
know?
Precisely.
And I'm like, and so then I got quiet, and you don't know them, you don't know who they are, you don't know how they make decisions, and one of the things that we started doing at my suggestion was the the office of this organization was in this building, and there was like a restaurant bar on the first floor. So after the board meeting, we would just all go down, just have a drink and just chat. I'm like, "Oh, wow, you're not a white guy with that tie. You're an actual human being who's pretty cool." You know what I mean? And it really, really helps, but it can be very intimidating,
I
even
love I
for
love that.
confident people,
It sure is. I love that you suggested this personalization, this time to kind of break the ice and get to know each other a little bit. That one-on-one is a great opportunity to do that. Another thing I like to do that kind of helps with this is to have a buddy system. So new board members get assigned an existing board member as their mentor or buddy or whatever you want to call it. Because that means the night before the board meeting, I get sent all the reports and I'm looking through them and I'm like, what? I don't understand. I have questions. Am I going to be asked about it? Do I need to talk about it? I pick up the phone or I text my buddy, my board buddy, and I say, hey, so just a quick question about tomorrow. Are we actually voting on this? Because I'm not sure I understand. I mean, I get some guidance, right? I get some
Sure.
guidance on
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
That's another great way to do it. But the last thing for me is the onboarding process itself. So think of that first board meeting. Let's assume this is a board that's used to just kind of absorbing new board members. So first day, we've got a new board member joining the meeting. We just conduct the meeting as normal. We assume they've been brought up to speed. We just have the meeting. That board member sitting there thinking, wow, okay, gosh, I hope I have a chance to take a look at all this before next month. Sometimes they don't. Next month comes along, then the following month. And before you know it, time has passed. They've never really felt like they got up to speed. And then we get into this vicious circle where they feel like maybe they're taking a valuable seat on the board, not bringing value. They're not feeling fulfilled because they're like, well, what am I doing on this board? I don't even know that I'm giving back. Then they start to wonder if they should even be there. But if we have that first board meeting where we have a chair of the board who's sensitive to all of this and says, before we vote on this, I'm going to give a little background because Jane hasn't really been privy to these conversations. And I know you read the reports, Jane, but let me just give you a little background on this. I mean, if we take the time to bring them up to speed, and how hard is that? It doesn't take
Sure.
that long, right? So we're being humans, we're being kind, we're being understanding, and we're also kind of bringing people you wouldn't treat a new employee like this. You wouldn't just assume they knew what they were doing.
Right. Right.
Why would
Or
we do it
say,
with our board?
I hear people say all the time, well, I don't want to enroll and overwhelm them. I'll give them a couple months. I'm like, no, no, no. Now you're just giving them bad habits. Like they're going to start, right? Like you want to, the way it starts
Exactly.
is the way is going to go in most
Exactly.
situations. So you want to keep on, right? Keep the
Mhm.
momentum.
Mhm.
And, and I just, so the one-on-ones, the buddy system, and then really just having like that understanding and empathy, right? And just taking the
Yeah.
time to explain things and
The
yeah,
humanity of it, right?
yeah.
Even just introducing them properly and maybe going around the room for a minute and everybody, I just did this at a board retreat and they had new board members in this board retreat who had not been part of a board meeting yet. And I just said, okay, well, it's a school. So I said, well, many of you attended the school or have children in this school or know something about the school. So tell us your favorite story about the school. Well, by the time we got to the end, they were all connecting and giggling and laughing, and the energy was completely different, right? We've
Yep.
broken down that initial like, oh, so he's the chair of the board, and you sort of feel a little bit intimidated. So again, it's about this humanity and this and building a team. How do we create the most effective team that's going to lead this organization? It's through this synergy. Now, it's not because we're finding people that are all exactly like ourselves. We know
Right.
that. So the whole diversity piece is huge. And I mean diversity in every aspect: age, background, professional status. Let's throw a couple of recent college graduates in there. We need multiple perspectives in order to form this whole board that truly represents our community. So perspectives are important, ages are important. Besides our regular, standards for diversity, equity, and inclusion, I just think there's so many other ways that we need to be really thinking about. And there's nothing wrong with the lawyers and the accountants and the bankers, and that's great. Those guys can serve a role. Those guys and gals can serve a role on a board too. But there's so much richness that can come from really focusing on areas that we haven't cultivated. And it may take effort. It may actually mean going out into the community and looking for people that can serve. So one of the reasons we launched Board Readiness is because we were seeing here in South Florida, in Palm Beach County, a lack of Black and Brown individuals volunteering, signing up for boards, whether they were for foundations, for nonprofits, just this hesitation. And, I started asking around because I speak Spanish. I'm very connected to the Latino community. So why haven't you joined a board? And why haven't you joined a board? I don't know what to do. I don't understand it. There's all this fiduciary stuff. I'm terrified. I thought, what a shame.
Yeah.
Okay. what are we going to do about this? Like, we need to make this a level playing field so that everybody feels like they bring something to the table and they can join a board. Why should there be a barrier to entry, right? For board service? No, especially board service, which is volunteer work. We need as many people as we can get signing up for this kind of work. So board readiness, really the launch of it, which was last year in September at Lynn University during Hispanic Heritage Month, our focus was to make this attractive and appealing and take away the intimidation factor for I'll just say your non-typical board member, someone who would never in a million years think that they would be invited to serve on a board. And I tell you, it was a roaring success. We end the session always with this speed networking event where we bring in local nonprofits and see if there's a match between our newly trained attendees with these nonprofits.
That's cool.
It was phenomenal. I think we had at least a 50% match. Now, some of them didn't match up that same day, but over the course of the subsequent 6 months, we would hear that, somebody had joined one of those boards. We're like, this is fantastic. So, and what better candidates could you have than people that have just been trained, who, by the way, thoroughly enjoyed interviewing these nonprofits and saying, well, the CPA just told me all about 990s. So can I ask you a couple questions about your 990? Yes. Okay. Love it. Knowledge in action right there.
For sure.
Right there.
Okay. So what are some of the ways that come from your board readiness, that people can take away the scaries? Like, what can we do to minimize the risk and to make, people want to do this? Because we are really missing out on a lot of talent and a lot of perspective, a lot of connection by not really understanding what the barriers to participation are. I think people think, people are just so busy. No, people make time for what's important. When you're saying I'm too busy, you're saying it's not important enough to me. It's not about the time. It is not about the time. It is about that they do not feel connected enough or this important enough. And a part of it could be this. It's like, well, that's just, and they're going to say they're busy, but what they're really saying is, I don't know if I can do that.
That's right. Well, so I think the obvious thing is we have to make programs that offer this type of training. We have to make those more available. Okay. Board readiness is offered every year. We're putting together a digital program. It is free. It is completely free to attendees. It is all day. It is a full day. We bring in a nonprofit attorney, a nonprofit CPA, nonprofit fundraiser, marketing expert, DEI expert, but it's free to attendees because, again, I don't want a barrier, right? I don't want there to be a reason that people don't attend. So I think programming is really important, but I also think, boards themselves, I know that we're not, let me just speak as if I'm on a board currently, I'll just be a we. We do not currently spend enough time assessing our own performance. We don't. We just don't. That's a reality. We're kind of satisfied with the status quo. How many boards have you spoken to recently, Marianne, that said, yes, we just completed our board self-assessment for the year. We compared it against the metrics from last year's board self-assessment, and we've determined that we have a couple of areas we need to work on. When did you last hear that?
Never, ever.
Correct. So one of the things I always talk about is, first of all, can we institute our board self-assessments on a regular basis? But let's also include our community efforts. Each of us has a responsibility to get out into the community. So maybe our approach has only been, let's go find donors and prospects and corporate sponsors. Maybe our approach should be, let's go find potential board members. Let's go talk about what board service is all about. How about each individual on the board at a Rotary meeting, at a chamber meeting, at a Kiwanis meeting, at your church? You talk about what board service means to you and how important it is for people to join boards. All
right. Now, I love that idea. And also, I think one of the things that is a practice that we can stop are those dang board binders. Why is that? Just get in your car, drive down the highway, open your window and throw it out, because you don't, well, don't litter, but you know what I mean? Like they're just not, I think that what well-intentioned people, like I'm saying this with love, well-intentioned, but here's everything you need to know. Like you could, like, in that fight, what if that we ditched the binder and you had an orientation or had some kind of day together, right? Where
Yes.
they'd actually connected with people.
Yes. A little show and tell, talk them through. You can have a little slide deck if you want, talk them through some high points, but and I do think it's important that there be a digital folder somewhere so
Sure.
that if the board member is saying, "Oh, I was asked for a copy of the articles, or I was asked for a copy of the 990, or I was asked for something," they know they can go find it there and their
Right.
minutes are there. Great. We've got that available to you. But to me, it is so much more meaningful to spend that time with them, talk them through things. First of all, I know people are not going to go home and read that. Secondly, who wants to join a board where they're given a binder that they have to go and do for homework? I mean, that's not exciting right off the bat. And honestly, is that one of the hallmarks of transformational philanthropy? I
Right.
mean, to me, we're burdening people.
Mhm.
So it's like when we talk about trust-based philanthropy with foundations, right? Where they're burdening their grantees with onerous additional reporting and this and that. So trust-based philanthropy has this other perspective where they say, you know what? Let's ask for a Zoom call and that'll be their report for this quarter or for this 6-month period or for this year. Awesome. Well, why don't we take that perspective with boards too? Let's think about ways that we can make this a pleasant experience, a fun experience for them. An orientation in person with a couple of board members. It could be even over a meal, right? But we can
Correct.
have an interactive conversation. And I guarantee you they're going to get so much more out of it than sending them home with this big board binder. So as
Right.
long as we have a place where they can access what they need, they can see the documents in case they need them, they can reference them. It will come up periodically. Oh, there's a question in the bylaws I wanted to ask about. Great. You can go find the bylaws in that digital folder in SharePoint or in Google Drive or wherever you like. But I think that we've followed these traditional practices without questioning them, Marianne.
Yes.
And I just think if we really want to break out of mediocrity operating by default, if we want to move into catalytic philanthropy, transformational philanthropy, where we're really moving the needle, we're really making a difference, we have to be unafraid of changing the way things have been done forever in the past. And I'm not saying we need to throw the whole thing out the window, but I am saying, okay, here it is 2024. We're almost in 2025. What could we be doing a little differently?
Sure.
So maybe it's not a board self-assessment that we send home, a stapled 5-page document. Maybe we ask them to just do a real quick thing on their phone. Maybe we do it after every board meeting, and that's going to constitute, I mean, I know boards that'll do that. They'll do 4 quick questions right after a board meeting. Before you walk out the door from the board meeting or you leave the Zoom, you just need to take 2 seconds on your phone, answer the questions, and they have a continuous way of measuring how those meetings are being conducted, how board members are feeling about their interaction. I think it's genius.
Yeah, that's
You know?
amazing. And I have this board member work plan that I use a lot and I love it. Um and the work plan, it's just this simple one sheet and it's, you know, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. Like I pledge to do this for this organization, goal 1, goal 2, and it says, like um it says, activities or whatever. One of the things it says is support needed. So let's say as a board member, I'm going to go out and try to help you get sponsorships, like what support do I need? Well, I may need um some, materials or whatever, like, or I could need some training on how to do this. So I can ask for that help. But it's like one sheet and then you sign it. And now the board meetings are like, hey, what everybody's getting out their work plan and then reporting out to what they're working on this plan. So basically, like you're setting up the system of accountability from the beginning. Because every time somebody says to me, my board isn't this, I said, well, what's your system of accountability? Like, oh, we don't have one. This is it, right? This.
I'm going to need a copy of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
Sounds phenomenal. I love it.
I'll see if I can get it in the show notes, or you can just, yeah, anybody can just reach out to me, DM me or email me. I'll send it to you. Like, I have used this so many times because it's just a one sheeter, and it just, and then so now at the board meeting, it's all, everybody just whipping out their work
Yes.
plan and walking
Yes.
through where they're at on that to each other. And I feel like that peer to peer is so important. It's not the, like, the ED or the CEO, it's them holding each other accountable for getting it done. Because shame and guilt are, are very, very strong motivators. Those are the feelings we don't want to feel the most, which is what keeps people from getting on the board, because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be ashamed. Like,
Mhm.
shame comes from, like, guilt comes from the things we do. Shame comes from who we are. But the lowest vibrational, emotion is shame. And so no one wants to feel that. That's why they avoid that. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to feel dumb. They don't want
That's
to
right.
feel right. Um, and if you consider yourself a smart, capable person, you will not go into a situation where you don't feel smart or capable.
That's right.
You won't.
That's right.
And, and, and so that idea of, then once they're on the board, then like that, hey, I want to show up. I want to make sure I'm doing my work and doing my job. And you're like, and it's like, yeah, and whatever you need to get that done, that's what we're here for.
That's right.
That's
That's
what
right.
we're here for. Mhm.
Completely. Completely. And I would love to see more of that, that brainstorming and internal support happening at board meetings, as opposed to just the rote checking the agenda items
Oh my
off.
God. Yeah.
Because where do you have creative thinking time with these brilliant people around the table? If not, and that's in, like, when is that going to happen
Get
otherwise,
all that
right?
stuff done ahead of time. Get it done in your
Yes,
Slack,
do a
right? And
consent
then
agenda
do
or
your
figure some
consent
other.
agenda, and then the time together is about really tapping it, because that, then people are going to be giving at a high level, and they're going to feel like they're contributing at a higher level, and they're going to be more engaged. Like, who wants to sit there and read crap and walk through this agenda? Like, if
No.
you don't want to do it, they don't want to do it either. And I want to go back to something though, because the first thing you said was about one-on-ones, and I think that is such good time spent. And I've been on boards where every year they had a one-on-one, and it was so powerful, and it just sets you up. And that's where I got the idea of having the gathering after the meeting, because I said, they're like, and it wasn't about, the question was, how can we make this the best board experience you've ever had? That was that led the one-on-one.
I love
And I said, well, because I said, I don't know why I'm here. Like, and I can't read these financials. Like, oh, so, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to help you tell your story better, and I'd like to get to know people better, because I'm really intimidated. And they're like, and then so that I did this whole training with them on, like, spreading the message and how to do that, and all of that, and how they can use their own experiences, right, to share an authentic story. And then the other part of it was, and then we decided, that's when we decided, and then we actually always do the junior board out once a year. The junior board would come, and so we would do like a double mix and mingle thing, or just like, it was very simple. It's a very, very simple. And I also want to say, I hope this inspires some folks. Like, I would love if more communities had some board readiness, had some kind of leadership in order, because you're basically priming and training people to just jump in. I think our United Way has a board thing. I'm not sure what they all do, but
it.
I would love for more communities to have some sort of
Yeah.
readiness program, very accessible, and like you
Yes.
said, it's free to attend, and
Mhm.
you
And
know,
I mean, this is something we can take it on the road. Other people can take it on. I mean, I'm a big believer in the in person, right? So I think there's a lot of value there. But there are digital options too. There are lots of institutes and places that offer this type of training. You just have to go find it. I'm looking for funding right now to really bring this across all of Florida, which is kind of where it was born. So I'll focus my energy there for now. But there's no reason why this can't be something that is just, in fact, I got the idea from Asheville, North Carolina. God bless them.
oh,
I know they're
yeah,
going through a lot, but
yeah,
that's where
for
I
sure.
I attended a board ready program at the time. And that's how I learned about this. And I thought, well, this is genius. And I had already been working in philanthropy for a long time. But to me, it was so important to have that baseline, also because I wanted to get to know the community. I wanted to get to know some people, see how things were done. I had just moved there from the Bahamas. I'm like, oh, it's probably really sophisticated here. Turns out boards are boards are boards all over the world,
Yes,
actually.
yes, they are.
They
Yes,
are. But
I,
it really is fundamental to eliminate the barrier. That's the thing. How do we encourage people to be part of this? And this can be fun, it can be inspiring, it can help you grow as a person. It really can be an incredibly, incredibly fulfilling experience,
and to remember that, like, I think we look at, oh, we're asking somebody to do a favor, when actually you're asking, it's a win-win for everyone. They get to grow in their skill set and their connections and their leadership. Providing opportunities for, there's our three higher needs of connection, growth, and contribution, like the higher order needs. Like, if you can meet those, you will have committed people. And
100%.
and just like in that growth opportunity to, and so you look at it as, you get to pick the right people. You just don't, just because they have a heartbeat, and that's
Right.
right.
Well, you're
But
absolutely right.
that's how people,
Absolutely.
that's how, oh, I got to get some, who's going to want to do this? Well,
Exactly.
we have to, well, who would want to do this, and why? And like, make it something, right, that
Mhm.
that has
Mhm.
opportunities for connection, like connection, growth, contribution. Those are the three. The idea of contribution, of giving back, is the highest order need. It is the most fulfilling thing we do. And when we give people an opportunity to do that, they will stay. Right. They will stay as long as they are feeling
Absolutely.
that they are contributing, and it will provide a lot of loyalty to you. And it's just a matter of tapping into that. And I have served on some, you have two, probably some not so great experiences, and some really great experience.
Oh my goodness, the stories. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And I've been a part of it. You're right. It's so funny because, like, I've done programs in New York. I've done like, oh, everybody in New York, they must have all their crap together. No, it's a
Right?
board's
That's
a
it.
board's a board. It is. People are people. Like, I
Yep.
always, like, I'm gonna get intimidated, or I'm like, oh, these, no, it's just, same old
No.
rooms, same old people, you
Mhm.
know?
Exactly. Exactly. And just think too, you have a CEO or an executive director who most of the time is flying solo, right?
Yes.
If you can build this board, if you can have those one-on-ones, if you can develop the closeness, the relationships at that board level, the backup, the support team, the fan club, the resources that this CEO and executive director gets the benefit of as a result of that, it's phenomenal. It's
Right.
phenomenal. It can just completely transform the whole face of how leadership is conducted at an organization. And that's the other thing, right? We're talking about setting a tone. We're
Yes.
setting a tone for behavior. We're modeling behavior. We're demonstrating how we're hoping.
We're setting a standard. This is
Correct.
how we operate. You either rise to meet it or you fall away. Those are the only two
100%.
options. This is what I work with people on every single day. You set the standard, right? And as long as you claim a higher standard, they'll come with you.
That's right.
People don't believe it, but they will come with you.
They will. And you don't. And so, when we think about higher purpose and being of service, and what is your overarching commitment? What are you hoping to do on this earth while you're here? Well, as far as I'm concerned, for me personally, I'd like to deliver at my very best every day. And so if we're setting that tone at the board level, and we're not settling for the lowest common denominator, which is, oh, well, we're just going to kind of go by the seat of our pants and whatever. But if we're really going to elevate this, now we've moved into a whole different level of
Yeah,
work, of impact, of catalyzing communities, of global transformation. It's just a whole different world.
it
I mean,
is.
and it all comes down to your board of directors. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
You know, one of my clients had a big event. She's local. Like, I have everybody all over the country, but she's one person. She's not just local. She, like, literally lives like a mile from me. And so I went to this event. Her name's Colleen, and she was program director, interim executive director, and now executive director of a community development organization. And when she was interviewing, right, and she's like, I can't believe I have to interview for this job. And I said, let's reframe that, because the board was going to interview her. Like, and I said, I think this is your opportunity to enroll them in the vision that you have for this organization. And I worked with her in a couple of one-on-ones just to prepare her for this. And she really worked on connecting with each person and really enrolling them and understanding, like, there was a lot of crisis happening. So here's some of the short term, medium term, long term, right? And anyway, and I'm standing at this event, and I could just see how much they cared about her and how much she cared about them, and how much they supported her and believed in the organization. And it was palpable, and but everything is about relationship building. And that's one of the things I train her on, not so much the board. I don't deal with the board, but I trained her on how to enroll them. And just so you have that feeling of, so now she has access to, and the sponsorships came quick, like the room filled up, like the event was so easy for her to put on, because it started with that base of support. They're on her side, they trust her and they believe in her. And that, because trust is the basis of every relationship. So they trusted her and they believed in her, and just seeing that like in person was so exciting to see. And I was just so proud to, have like walked her through that, and watched her be able to not, because you don't have to do it alone, right? Like,
Right. That's right. What you did what a gift you gave her. That was phenomenal. It
yeah,
reminds me of Brian Stevenson's, from Just Mercy, his concept of being proximate and proximity, and how important it is for each of us to be proximate, because we're in a day and age where we're on Zoom, we're digital. We'd rather send an email or a text than actually be with people and have conversations and have these authentic conversations, which is why those one-on-ones are so important. But getting proximate is how we get to share our vulnerabilities, share ourselves, share our brokenness, which, by the
yeah,
way, we all have, right?
we all
But that's a
absolutely.
bond. That's a bond. But it's the same with the board. If we can get that board to be proximate, to be with each other, truly to get to know each other, that's a force. That is a powerful force for
Yes.
driving an organization.
So I want to say two things real quick, then we're going to wrap up. The first thing is, we opened this conversation now, and we were talking about like your love of dance, like, but I am an adult, I don't get to do it often as not enough. In the same sense, I think that get to know you time, people think that's wasted time, but that's not wasted time. That's building trust and community, which is what you need in order to build a team and make these decisions. So don't look at that as like, oh, we don't have time for that. That is important time that will make everything else on the other side actually go faster, right? Because those decisions are going to take longer to make, because people are going to have more questions and concerns. When they trust each other, it just moves right along. And the last thing is, now well, before I ask that, is there anything else that you want to share, or anything that I didn't ask about, or an important point? Yes, whatever, it's fine.
No, I mean, I know it's not a very sexy topic, but I love it, because to me it
Stop
is,
it. Don't even
it's
say that. Don't
it's
don't
the
diminish.
lifeblood. It's the lifeblood of an
It is.
organization. So
It
I'm all
it
there.
is it
I
is
love it.
sexy. Don't undersell it. It is sexy. It's
Boards
important.
are sexy.
It's a
Okay,
good, it,
I like
right?
that.
Because again, like, oh, it's not sexy. Like, that's a story we're telling ourselves. Like, no, this is amazing opportunity, right? Like, remember, because our thoughts come, our words shape our reality. I know I'm giving you a coaching session here, but I think it's important for
I'll
people to
take it.
understand, like, how you think creates your reality. So if you're like, this is boring, or this is, no one's going to want to do this, it's boring, it's stupid, no one's going to want to do it, right? Like, that will manifest. So
Mm.
what's a better story? I talked to this woman once, she's like, no one's ever going to want to be on this board. I'm like, then no one's ever going to want to be on this board. Like, okay. And there's no place to go from there. Like, how can I enroll? Okay, because I could give her 20 assets of, like, you are a citywide organization. Like, people could get so connected. Like, like, I could give her 15 reasons why I think somebody, but she didn't believe it. you know, so, and there's just not a lot of places you can go from there. So again, story to tell yourself. Okay. The last thing is
Boards are sexy. That's my takeaway.
boards
Boards
are
are
sexy.
very
That's the hot
sexy.
tech. That's the
You
hot
got
tech.
it.
The last thing is we will be together in person one day soon. I know.
I know. It'll happen.
We didn't even talk. We're working on this other project. We don't have time to get into, but we will.
Yep.
So tell, if you're in St. Louis, I'm Chicago, we will go dancing, but for sure we're going to karaoke because that's my jam. So
Okay.
what's your go-to song?
Oof. Well, let's see. Probably a Mark Anthony song, maybe.
Yeah.
Or yeah, Valió la pena.
You gonna
Barca
sing in
la deriva.
Spanish?
Oh no, boy, that's really a test. Woo! Let's save that for next time. Save that for karaoke.
No, I'm saying like you would sing a song in Spanish at karaoke. Is that what you would
Oh,
say?
heck yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, bring it on. Yes.
I
Can't
would
sing
love
for
that.
you
Would
right
be so
now because I
fun.
don't have my karaoke mic on, but
I
sounds like
love
fun.
it.
I can't wait. Can't
Chris-
wait, Marianne.
Thank you so much for being here and chatting with me. And how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Probably best way is LinkedIn or email,
Okay.
kstevens@canico.com. But I'm on LinkedIn. You can also send me a message through our website. It's www.canico.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll have all of that in the show notes. So if you want to reach out, and I would really love people reach out and maybe learn more about the board readiness, and maybe we could bring it to other cities. You never know.
Oh, yes.
Wouldn't that
Yes.
be
I would
wonderful?
love that. I would
Yeah.
love that. Love that.
All right, everybody, that's it for me and this episode of the Influential Nonprofit. Thank you for joining us today. And I'll see if I can't get that board work plan in the show notes. But if not, just email me and I'll send it to you. And I'll see you next time on the Influential Nonprofit.